Okay, good afternoon, colleagues. I'm going to start promptly today because we have a really packed agenda. I'm delighted to see that we've got so many people here today. And the focus of today is technology enhanced learning. And there's going to be a particular focus on the use of video and recording and lecture capture. So we are actually recording the presentation as of now, and that will go live along with the PowerPoint slides after the seminar today. As I say, we've got quite a packed agenda. This is prompted by, I suppose it's fair to say that in terms of the university's strategy, the university doesn't have an explicit strategy around technology enhanced learning, but technology enhanced learning is firmly embedded within our teaching learning enhancement strategy within the university. And there's no doubt that in the sort of the broader education sector, that there is this move to sort of capitalising the benefits afforded by technology enhanced learning. So really, I suppose it's encapsulated in terms of supporting more effective approaches to student learning, and also I suppose there are some potential efficiency gains. So we're all aware of things like electronic management of assessment and online marking, but we're diversifying our interest in technology enhanced learning. And a number of people in the room are using technology, of course, in a number of ways already. And so some of this will be very familiar to people, and some of it I'm hoping will be also quite new. There's a working group, there's a technology enhanced learning working group that comprises a number of colleagues from each of the schools, from professional services, including information services, student support, registry, and our student representatives. And that group met twice before the summer. We had quite detailed workshops to sort of establish what the landscape was in terms of technology enhanced learning at Abertay, and what the challenges were, what the priorities were that we were interested in moving forward, because it is a vast area and it could be potentially overwhelming. So I'm going to give you an update on the four priorities. I'm going to ask my colleagues to support me. But just to let you know, the four priorities that the group identified were learning spaces, learning analytics, e-portfolios, and blended and online learning. So they're the sort of the four headings, and there's going to be some sort of very short presentations on each of those. And the first one's learning spaces. I'm going to ask Ken Scott Brown. Ken, would you mind just speaking to the next slide, please? We're going to have a lot of talking heads today, so over to you, Ken.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Alastair. So, I think this element here is really recognising a kind of a trend or a movement afoot in the institution that recognises the need to continuously invest in our spaces, but also balance with the recognition that we can't transform everything overnight all at once, unless Ian's managed to win the lottery and get us. Yeah, that's right. So there's a kind of a range of elements that have been kind of cooking up, but I think that the most important message from today is that it's all very well having an idea and a sense of travel, but it's really important that that is informed and fed directly by staff. So, certainly when I go to other universities or institutions, I can kind of sometimes look enviously on their equipment. But other times, actually, most recently, I was at a university not too far away, at their facilities, their projection facilities, and they weren't nearly as easy to use or as effective as the ones that we've got here, because there has been a recent investment in the facilities that we've got to it. And that made me feel quite good. But I also recognise that we all generally quite like to have a bit of a moan about facilities when they're not as they are. So really it's about channeling that energy and getting people to reflect. And when you are abroad or around the country, spotting good practice, reflecting on that and feeding that back. In terms of how does that fit into Abertay? Well, in terms of things that we can do in the short and medium-term future, there's going to be an overhaul of laboratories in SET in summer 2016. There's also been a recognition following on from the problem-based learning workshop that was done previously that problem-based learning requires its own kind of dedicated learning space. So there's a recognition that that would be wise for us to invest in that, particularly as we're moving towards trying to generate more CPD, more problem-based learning. So imagine, for example, rooms that you might have been at in conference hotel facilities where there's power sockets so people can have their laptops plugged in. So in a problem-based learning session, one person might be designated the person that's going to look for things. Are there power sockets so that they can actually keep their laptop switched on for more than, well, mine lasts about 20 minutes at the moment before it runs out of battery. So there's definitely a recognition that we'd like to invest in problem-based learning spaces, but also really this is a kind of pre-advert for today, the idea that it's really nice to be able to just record how to do something on a computer and comment over that, and then let students do that. And I've started doing that with Excel. I used to run Excel workshops. Nobody bothered coming, but when I just recorded how to do it, put it on Blackboard, they just watch it, and 2 minutes later they know how to do it. But also this recognition that more and more informal learning spaces, and Abertay is taking the lead in that with Fight Space already, that it works quite well. But what would that look like with some more investment? And generally looking at the greater use of technology of gadgets of a Skunkworks type facility. So rather than kind of the university just present that as a fait accompli to staff, the idea is that there's time for you to think about that in the next few weeks. So on the 2nd of March, there's going to be another TLE seminar, and there'll be an opportunity for people to reflect on, suggest what areas work for them currently, what areas maybe don't work quite so well, and what things that we could be doing. So it's very much the case that if you don't come to this, you lose your moaning rights for the next 12 months. You've got no right to complain about what's not done, because what comes out of that will inform precisely what's going on in the sector. So I hope that makes sense. It's very much a case of staff-led, but there will obviously be student participation in this as well, ideally at the same time, or if they can't, I'll make it. Does anybody have any comments or suggestions or observations, reflections?
I take it when looking at the problem-based learning spaces and stuff, you're also thinking about mobility needs,
absolutely,
that sort of thing. So there's not just.
Yeah, it's got to be built into the any spec.
So you can.
So for anything, you have to do it.
Most universities, I mean, Alastair's surveyed at least 5 universities with these little booths, which they look great and they're very efficient. You get lots of them into a space this big, but they're not very accessible. And you have to kind of nudge past people to get out of them. So that's, for example, that's precisely the sort of thing that we want to not just copy what Durham's done or what UCL have done. They've got a different estates portfolio than we have, but those are precisely the sort of things that if you just go to a design agency, they'll put that down on the CAD, it'll look fantastic, could be signed off, but actually useless.
I suppose my is about usability and accessibility.
So it really has to be about our demographics, so that there's no way you can get a wheelchair in there, so you've excluded lots of people. So we put those up as what people are doing that look great, but we want something that actually works. So we've got lots of different models on campus. So tell us about the ones that you find are really frustrating, or the ones that you think, if only we had what they've got, then we could have that. I think that's the message.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you. Okay, this is a whistle-stop tour. The next strand is learning analytics, and this is being led by Information Services Moriamo. He's the project manager at Moriamo's in London today at a JISC event on learning analytics. So I've asked Alison to give us a quick overview.
Thank you. Back last year when we had the subgroup meeting for learning analytics, so we had a lot of working group people who were interested in it. We looked at what areas we were interested in learning analytics. These were the key areas that are up on the board just now. So improving student retention, improving student progression and completion, and identifying students at risk. And the sort of underlying point to each of them is student engagement. So these are the areas that we are focusing on our subgroup. The other thing that we've got involved in is JISC running a project which will provide universities and FE establishments with tools that they can use, both for staff and both for students. We've got involved in this learning analytics project. We're right at the stage where they will send consultants next week, and over the 3-day period they will be meeting with various members of staff and students to discuss how they would expect learning analytics to work for them, so both from the student and the staff point of view. A lot of universities have gone down the route of looking at dashboards for staff so that they can see when students are not engaging with their TLEs, for example. But we also need to take into account that learner data is generated from other resources, from library, from work placements, etc. So this goes into account. So that's the timetable for the 3 events. If you're involved in this, you will have already received your invitation to attend one of the workshops or the forum, or the meetings that they're having. This is the project team, led by Moriamo, as Alastair said, and Jonathan is helping us, wherever Jonathan is. He's helping us with all the organisation of getting these people to the right rooms at the right time. Anybody that wants to find out more information about our learning analytics project, they can go on to the TLE website and they can use this resource, which was created using Xerte. So they can find out what Blackboard will be doing once they arrive here next week. They're essentially testing our readiness to be involved in the GIST project. So by doing all these interviews, they will then produce a report for us, which will then say whether or not we're at that stage where we have all the necessary data in our various systems to actually progress to the next stage of their project. We have a project timeline and we've got our goals. So all of the information that you could ever want to know about what we're doing with learning analytics is in this resource. We've also got external links out to other relevant sites that are dealing with learning analytics. There's also a link to the architecture that JISC are hoping to build with their learning analytics project.
Brilliant. Okay, so next I think it's Carol.
So there was a working group to look at portfolios and sort of talking how they nurture and allow students to record and showcase their achievements. So the resources are in an e-portfolio. So the project details are, so basically we wanted to establish policy and help promote the best practice regarding the use of e-portfolios and open badges at Abertay. So this is the working group. And these are the scope of the sort of questions that we're trying to address. So the first one was, should all students have an e-portfolio? And I can probably skip to the recommendations sort of down here. But I think the answer was not really, okay, at least not yet. So we still feel that we need to make the case for students using e-portfolios. But, and the recommendation was that we should carry on with projects and publicise that to the rest of the university. So what this sort of resource is going to do, and it will be available on the portal, is it will have case studies of everyone who's actually using portfolios and sort of how they got on. The law division are sort of case in point. There's no denying the success that you've had with e-portfolios, and you can see that from your NSS results, which are outstanding, I would say. So, and you've also piloted the use of open badges, which are used for sort of crediting small chunks of work, and especially co-curricular activities. So again, I think it's more a case that we need to publicise the work that's already being done. So again, if we look at the graduate school, this is a project that's really just starting. And the graduate school are going to be using portfolios for supervising projects, but also for personal development portfolios, which is based on the VTI model. And this is going to be quite an interesting one going forward, I think, because it is actually a structured programme for personal development. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. The other sort of aspect of this is sort of using open badges with the HERE. And so we're working with information services on if students, sort of gain open badges, which are HERE accredited, then it can go onto their HERE. And so that's looking quite promising at the moment. And also there'll be sort of facilities in there showing people how to use PebblePad. So all that's going to be available on the portal. And so it's really, I think, in this case, we're just sort of trying out more projects, making sure staff know sort of what's going on, and also establishing good practice. I think sort of one of the, if I just pop back to project details. So let's have a look at other recommendations. So we're not sort of definitely committing to one e-portfolio, but we need to consider using PebblePad first. But if it's not suitable, then we consider something else. So, but I think that anybody who uses portfolios successfully are quite evangelical about them and really feel that they do help students develop self-reflection and the ability to articulate their competencies. So, but there are other things that we need to look at. So, definitely, I think one of the sort of things that we do need to do is to concentrate on implementing e-portfolios into programs and implementing them in stage 1. Because by stage 4, if you think about it then, it's too late. If you're trying to develop sort of employability skills, by that time, they run out of time, basically. So I think we need to research their importance to employers or how useful they are to students when they meet employers. And I think that the other thing that we said needed to change was that co-curricular activities need to be integrated with academic units. We think that works quite well, and probably the case studies will show how that's worked in the past. So, so that's where we are with e-portfolios. Okay, blended and online learning. So we have run a couple of workshops on this, and the sort of questions that came out of it was basically sort of how do you measure or benchmark success in a sort of blended or fully online course, and how do you sort of assure the quality? And the other thing was what's the best way for staff development and resources to be made available? And another thing was sort of about best practice when flipping the classroom and using sort of video technology. So there were lots of questions about these kind of things. So we ran a few workshops. There was one where we used the Ulster Viewpoints cards, and this was, I think, particularly useful because it really got us to concentrate on the student experience rather than the content. So, which I think people get hung up about the content that they're going to put onto an online course, and sometimes they can turn into page turners. But what you really need to do is to concentrate on sort of the experience the student is having. And also, it should be as much like a sort of face-to-face course as possible. And you should realise that interaction is possible in an online course. So, and I think actually using these little cards just helped us, do that. So we'll be sort of putting information about these resources on the portal. There was a second workshop where we were looking at actually open educational resources, but what they did was to make us concentrate on the learner and not think too much about, again, the content. So you're thinking about the student experience and you're thinking about your student. And so I think what you think about is your ideal student. And I think this one is sort of studying in the library, it's got the latest technology, Apple's health, with sort of an apple for the teacher, and we've got some events here. They're not afraid to take a chance, and get involved in things. So they've got all the resources there, and they've got their eye on the prize. They know what they want to achieve, so whether it's money or graduation or whatever. And then we're sort of asked to think about our actual learner. So perhaps they might be in the back of the classroom really bored, perhaps they're a bit needy, call you all the time, like help, help, help. Or perhaps they're a bit of a swot and they take over the class and answer all the questions. They might be sick, they might not be there, they might be too busy socialising to come to your classes. But whatever it is, you need to design your learning for your user. And so I think that's the thing to think about in online learning. is a student experience and concentrate on what's going to work for your particular learner. So there was another diagram where we were thinking about our learner. I think it was around about Halloween when we did this. I think somebody thought that, you know who you are, that the students were sucking the blood out of our brains. But well, we won't dwell on that one, okay? So this is far too small to read, but basically, I think that, just what I've been saying, don't think about content, think about experience. When you're creating an online course, it's a whole university job. It's not just the course team. You have to think about registry and all their processes. You need to think about access to library resources. You need to think about all the learning tools at your disposal. And so you need to work as a team with everyone in the university. Okay, it's not just creating your course and delivering it. The other thing is that all online courses need to work from the start. And what other universities do, they always have a week's induction. We have a week's induction for our courses here for face-to-face students. So what we really need to do as well is to have a week for online induction to make sure that everybody's on board, everybody can access the TLE or whatever you're using, and that they can use all the tools that they need to use in their course. Okay, so that's very important. And we need to align all the sort of QA processes with any online courses that we provide. So I think another thing was that the group decided that we needed models that we could sort of look at and say, this is good practice, this has worked in the past. And so that brings us on to the next ATLEF bit. So I'll pass over to Alastair.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, yes, so as Carol has said, the university has realised that in order, if we're serious about enhancing our online provision, then actually we need to go direct resource in this area. So, brings me to today. Today we are launching our next round of Abertay Teaching Learning Enhancement Fund projects, and there are two strands, one on online learning and one on student-led projects. I'm hoping that most people in the room know what ATLEF is, but if not, just to say it's Abertay Teaching Learning Enhancement Fund. We launched the first round of this. This is for teaching development innovations, and they can be for individuals or they can be collaborative ventures, but we do stipulate that the benefits of the project must extend beyond the grant recipient. We launched the first of these in October 2013. I think we've funded over 25 projects so far. They have benefited a number of colleagues and stakeholders in the institution, and we've also had recognition from out with the university. So I pick on Andrea. You know, you've been asked to give keynotes at various national events, and we've also had a Sparks Award for student engagement in the higher education curriculum. So it is having an impact. As I say, the information is going live. I know that today we've got a packed schedule, so say a few more words, but we don't have too much time to go into the detail. But really just to say that all the information, including staff guides, is available today on the internet and will publicise through Yammer and the TLE blog. And the call is live for about a month. It's Friday the 4th of March that it closes. Julie, would you like to say a little bit about the student strand, please?
Basically, part of the ATLEF 4 is student-led projects. We're doing this in partnership with the Students' Association. The past ATLEF 2 and ATLEF 3 very successfully used students as researchers within the project, so we want to move that forward a little bit along, following some practice that's been happening at other institutions, and actually getting the students to think about some projects to enhance learning within Abertay. We're starting off quite small scale. We're looking only to fund about maximum of 5 projects this time round, because we've not done this way before. It will give us some valuable lessons on how to expand this and make this a bit bigger. They can be individual students working on a project. It can be teams of students. Teams of students can be multidisciplinary. They can be across years.
All projects will have a member of staff supporting the project. Now, depending on what exactly they want to look at will depend whether that's an academic member of staff or whether it's a professional services member of staff. And they will also have a supporter from the Students' Association, and then all projects will be mentored by Teaching and Learning Enhancement. We have got a full briefing next week, 2 till 3 in here, and there's a load of information up on the portal, on the internet already, under ATLEF for student-led projects. There's the application form information for students, and there's also a staff guide which just explains a little bit about if you want to be involved in helping out, supporting a student project, what kind of things you'd be expected to do.
Thank you, Julie. And the other strand is, say, online learning. And I say that was my terrible attempt at that sort of a pun, but then, anyone know what CATS is? Credit Accumulation and Transfer System. So the idea here is that we want to boost our online provision. It could be for credit-bearing provision, so it might be online modules which students might wish to take, and that they could also use the credit that they gain, maybe perhaps for as part of a greater award in another institution. Or similarly, a student at Abertay might be able to take a module at another partner institution and use the credit gained for that as part of their Abertay award. There are also, of course, I'm quite interested in the idea of mini MOOCs. So these are probably very short courses, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. They're non-credit bearing. They're probably, essentially, they're a bit of a marketing exercise. They're in order to help students to get a bit of a flavour of what an Abertay experience looks like. So it might be, for example, that we have a number of electives that are being delivered for the first time this term, but some of them, they're all in quite broad sort of interdisciplinary areas, and some of them might lend themselves to piloting as a sort of a mini MOOC, so they would be opened up to the outside world, and they'd be formative assessment only, so students wouldn't get formal credit for engaging with these MOOCs. It's more a question of getting a taster, as I say, for what an Abertay experience looks like. The idea, I'm guessing these are going to be staff-led. Of course, if we have some student-led proposals, that's wonderful, but the idea, this is probably a staff-led initiative. But we would, again, encourage you to engage students. So obviously, you can imagine this has got to be a lot of student-centered proposals. We want to think of innovative ways that we can engage our students through an online environment. So it's really important that students are involved in the research process. And just to remind people that for students who are involved as research assistants as part of the ATLEF initiative, it does appear on there here. Okay, just in terms of some budgets and timescales then, the student-led projects are about £1,300 maximum. I think we've said it would be about notional 100 hours of student effort plus a couple of £100 to travel for, say, travel or equipment. For the online projects, we're looking at £2,000 per bid. What we'll cover and what we won't cover, so we'll cover things like travel, software licenses, that kind of thing. The thing that we won't cover is full economic costing, and we won't cover employed staff time. We're going for a much simplified budgeting process. In the past, we asked people to go through the whole RIAS system. I've discussed things with David Reeves, and we've agreed we want to keep things as simple as possible. So it's very simple. There's no additional forms to fill in. It's all just part of the ATLEF application form. It's live as of today. The call closes on the 4th of March, with a view to, say, starting from April onwards. The student-led projects, we've said that they should be up to 4 months, so we've got it in our minds that they're probably going to be summer projects, and that they should be complete before the next term starts in September. And for the staff projects, we're a bit more flexible. I've said sort of 6 to 9 months, so that probably means April to either the end of the calendar year or next spring. Okay. Any sort of initial questions before we move on? No? Okay. Ken?
Alastair, mini and massive don't fit together terribly well. So what sort of scale are we looking at?
It means mini in terms of time scale, macro in terms of outreach. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, Alison, over to you again. And I think we're still on time to go live. Yes.
Just
We're quick.
yes, very quick. For those that aren't involved or don't know very much about lecture capture, screencasting, these are just very short definitions. We've been running a pilot since last year using Camtasia Relay Recorder. We don't have that campus-wide as yet because we want to make sure that we put the infrastructure in first that will actually support the usage that both staff and eventually students will use. The hardware that we've been using, so we've got the Phoenix mic at the front that we're using today. We've got the Logitech webcam over there if you really want video as well. And for screencasting, we can either use an independent microphone or they can use a headset mic. So you don't need an awful lot of sophisticated software and hardware in order to make this happen. We've had 23 staff attend our training on lecture capture, and they have generated 283 videos, approximately 49 gig that are currently sitting on the system. The one thing that we have noticed because of the setup that we have at the moment is that with lecture capture, the audio needs set up each time that you do it, because we can't leave these just sitting about because they will go walkabout. So this is part of the infrastructure, and this ties in nicely with the Learning Spaces project as well, in that we will hopefully provide recording rooms that staff can record screencasts, hopefully green screen if you want to superimpose yourself into a mini movie. Currently, Siobhan McAndrew is coming towards the end of her 2-hour lecture. She uses Adobe Connect to allow her students to either be there in person or be there remotely. So when I logged in earlier on, she has 37 students logging in remotely, and she's got to keep an eye on both the chat, what's going on in the classroom, and everything else, as well as present. So we will log in. Fingers crossed she's not finished early and they've all gone home. I did say to her to be logging on at this time.
Because obviously psychological theory relies very much on people being able to give an account of data. Okay, hi Alison.
Hi Siobhan, can you hear us?
So, there's Alison Christie. So Alison, could you just quickly tell the class what your job is?
What my job is? Was I not meant to be asking you the questions?
Maybe you all stick with quietly in the seminar room.
Can you hear me okay, Siobhan?
Okay then, what we'll do is say hello, loudly. Hello. This is class PS 1036. We've been having a heated discussion about the nature of consciousness. Hi, can we hear you?
Can you hear us?
Speak.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
No, Alison, have I got a setting wrong here? I can see you quoting.
No, we're fine.
You can hear me, but I can't hear you, right?
Right, so one of the questions I wanted to
I
ask her.
think I might have had to put a setting on very early on so that you would have audio facility and video facility. So if you ask me questions, Michael, that's great. That's what class does. Okay, so remote people, remote class. This is Alison Christie, and TLE stands for Teaching and Learning Enhancement. And there's a bunch of staff over in another group over there, and they're having a training session and discussing where they think enhancement should be going in Abertay. So we're using Adobe Connect. Just before I answer you, Alison, I'm just going to show you the class. We've got 30 participants online just now, and here are, so give them a wave. And what we've found is that, if anything, for a fourth year option in psychology, is it option? Yeah, it is. For fourth year option in psychology, I'd say there's actually more attendance. But it's a lot of different choices being made. Some people are choosing just for recordings. Some people are choosing to attend and use the recordings as a backup. And some people are choosing to be at home, maybe they've got children, maybe they're not well, and just talk to me that way. So it's actually all about choice. So it's about choice, and it's all about efficiency. And it's also about me being able to be quickly there 24 hours, 7 days. In that they can plug into what I've said, what I'm trying to say, the teaching that I'm trying to impart, and interact with it in lots of different ways, either being here, physically present, which lots of people choose to do, or sitting quietly at home, or looking at it later on. Importantly, all of those different forms of interaction are going to result in a different kind of learning, and I think we need to do a bit of research about that. What feedback have you received from your students? Well, anybody going to come up? Definitely Pauline. Oh, come on, help Pauline out. We can have more than one person. So here's Pauline going to come up. We might get some more people. Yeah, so you're Hi, Alison. Well, the question was on the question was on what kind of feedback that we get. Well, we get a lot of feedback online, so when there's a lot of questions asked, and there's more of that from us in here as well. So it's not just about us just asking the same questions, we actually got other questions from online, and then it all kind of converges. Is that right? Yeah, everybody's nodding on the game. And else want to join me? No. That's okay. Yeah, so it'll just say that. So Laurie. Oh yeah, so there's Laurie was on the train. Some people come in because they have other commitments. They don't come in because they have commitments. Yeah, here's a check. Yeah, she's saying truth. Yeah, it does promote a lot more discussion from us, right? Yeah. Okay, and of course, so thanks Pauline, thanks Alison, and of course there's the recording as well. Okay, so if anybody wants to engage with this, find out what, the difficulties for the lecturer, there are some, you know what my email is, and just get in touch. If you want to see the recordings, I can give you the link. Bye!
Okay, so hopefully you've had an opportunity to hear our champions and what their experience of using the lecture capture or screencasting or Adobe Connect. And you may have discussed some of the opportunities and challenges of lecture capture. These may have been some of the points that you came up with at your tables. Was there anything from this slide? I've got one for screencasting as well. Was there anything that's up there that you were discussing that's not there?
I heard two tables say a concern was potentially that it might inhibit what staff might say when they're on record, or the sort of the atmosphere of the lecture theatre might become a bit more stilted and formalised.
Some of the case studies that we've looked at, they focus more on the student and what the student gets out of it rather than actually the lecturer. It's expected that the lecturer's there already, they're given their lecture on whatever given topic, and that the technology that's at the side of them recording then eventually doesn't become invisible, but they become less conscious of it being there. And it takes a little while to get used to the technology and to be comfortable with it, but after that they sort of get over the fact that they are being recorded. It's an opportunity for staff to then, if they want to, listen back to their recording and use that as an evaluation of themselves or colleagues. The example that you gave, Ben Jones came to us with a micrometer. He had student after student come. So his example is combination, a bit of film and using the iPad, and then others are just slides where he just put in the exact measurements that the students are actually wanting to pay attention to.
What is it?
You can see that sort of thing better.
Something like attention and measure.
Pence. Slide that in. Tighten it up. And you can see that this bit of it, this is quite a mangled line, is just over 1.5 millimeters. It's actually 1.5 as well. Now, some of these micrometers have an extra scale up here. Now, this is a vernier scale that you can see. Now, the lines on the thimble need to match the lines over here.
So you can imagine he's saved himself an awful lot of time. After that video went onto his module, he didn't have a single student come back to him and ask him how it works. So from his point of view, that was a very quick win of what we were able to do. For the role playing, which there.
Sorry, we'll just keep it on it. Keep it on it, keep it on it. Sorry. It's okay, sorry. Okay,
So our star Scottish purposely kept that mistake in so that the students, I know you did it on purpose, so that the students would actually see, well, actually that might happen when you come to do your role-playing scenario. And that it was okay and that you can just sort of, calm yourself down and carry on with your recording. And then a little quick example of Anne's one in our flipped classroom
In
approach.
this introduction, I'm going to discuss some basic elements of the job design process.
We've got
Are the groups who should perform this job, quality, work development process. Overall,
so just using slides and audio. All different approaches as far as what hardware they use. Some use cameras, some use the USB pen to do the recordings. And then for Ben, we used an iPad. So you could use your mobile phone if you really wanted to. There's always some way of doing a recording that you can then edit, put together. If you need to come to our team to assist with that until we get these recording booths up and running, then that's fine.